called Jal Jivan Mission. So his aim is to bring water to every village household. And in that aim, it was, the schemes were always there, but there was no focus.
But 10 to 12% was the disconnections in UP. Now it has come up to around 65-70% in UP.
Yeah.
States like Goa, Arunachal Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, they have 100% connections now.
There's a lack of focus over the last 10 years on hydropower development or adding additional capacity in hydropower over the last 7-8 years has actually resulted in this becoming very skewed.
2017, the hydropower capacity, installed capacity was around 45-44 gigawatts, and currently in 2023, so a couple of months ago, it was around 46 gigawatts. So hardly any momentum when it comes to that when you compare to solar or wind for the matter. Hi everyone, today we are in Mumbai with Mr. Vikas Kothari from Om Infra. They are into projects from anywhere that involves water, and they also have a couple of real estate projects that is considered non-core. But the most of the operation, 90% of the operations is involved in water projects. And water, if governments focus Jal Jivan Mission, or whether it be hydroelectric plants to increase the renewable capacity, energy capacity of India. And this is where Om Infra comes in. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So firstly, before we get into the business, we talk about the promoter's journey. So I want to understand, where did you do your mechanical engineering from? I think you did it from the US, and then you came back to India. You did your master's MBA from IIM Bangalore. Then you joined the family business.
Yes.
I want you to go through the educational
So I was born in 1973, and I've been part of the company for the last more than 25 years. I did my engineering from the US. I did mechanical engineering about almost 30 years ago. And thereafter, almost 7-8 years, I did my master's from IIM Bangalore. And I've been doing programs from ISB, from Harvard Business School. So that's been my academic journey. My professional journey has been, I've been part of the company. I joined as a site engineer. For the first couple of years, I worked in the company as site engineer. I used to be responsible. As soon as I came back from the US, my grandfather told me to join a project and be on the ground. And that's how I started my journey. So I worked at a couple of projects which we had in the remotest parts of India, in rural Karnataka and in rural Sikkim.
Okay.
I used to be traveling between those two projects. Used to spend almost 20-25 days of a month at those project sites. And of course, over the last 25 years, I've grown to now becoming the managing director of the company.
Great.
Om Infra's journey, we are a 50-year-old company, started by my grandfather. I'm the third generation in the family. My grandfather and my father and my uncle, they started the company together. And so professionally, I'm the second generation in the business. But was started by my grandfather. We started off making very specialized, doing fabrication, steel fabrication works for gates. Okay. Back in those days, there used to be a very large project called Indira Gandhi Nehar Pariyojana, which was being built in Rajasthan. And we are from our native place is Kota. So, my grandfather got a small contract to make small gates. He started off with signboards, so making steel signboards for the canal. And then the first job he got was for making small gates in the canal. And that's how we entered into the field of hydromechanical equipments. Now, hydromechanical equipments is a very, very specialized and niche area of EPC. Basically, anywhere where you require storage of water and regulation of flow of water, be it water supply project, be it hydropower project, be it an irrigation project or canal project, wherever you require storage of water or regulation of flow of water, large quantities of water, you require gates.
Okay.
Generally speaking, their generic term is gates, but more technical term is hydromechanical equipments. Okay. So starting from the smallest project that we got 50 years ago to being one of the largest companies in this specialized area of hydromechanical equipments is what we are today. Today we are one of the largest companies in the world, of course one of the largest in the country, where we have done some of the largest gates, largest radial gates, largest vertical gates, largest diameter penstock projects. And we are proud to be one of the largest companies in this hydromechanical space.
Okay. So from what I understand, you have 4 divisions. I would say 4 verticals. Okay. One is hydroelectric EPC that you just mentioned. Second is a real estate unit that you have. And then third, you have some projects in African region. And fourthly, the biggest component of your order book is Jal Jivan Mission. So can you break down these 4 areas?
So basically, we do everything related to water. So starting from the source of water, which is reservoir, river, or even groundwater. So starting from the source, which is construction of dams or barrages, we do entire EPC
so let's
contract.
Say point A from a glacier, let's take.
Yes.
Water is flowing. Okay.
So point A from glacier, there are rivers flowing from the glacier. Now these rivers require damming, which is basically to generate power through hydropower, or to store the water, so that you can control the rivers. You can control flooding, you can control rivers, you can utilize the water for drinking water purposes. So for everything, you can utilize it for irrigation, for providing water to the farm fields, to the farmers. So for everything, you require to store water. All of our large cities and even smaller cities and even farm fields, they get water from a source. And those sources are, in most cases, other than the groundwater, in most cases are reservoirs. Reservoirs are basically dams or barrages which are created. So, and these are constructed across a river. So that's where the dams are. So reservoirs, storage of dams, then regulation of flow of water. So after storage, now once you've stored it, then you need to control the water flow, right? How much water can you dispense from the dam or from a hydropower project? Those are controlled by hydromechanical equipments. You open the gate, the water starts flowing in, the reservoir level goes down. The capacity of the reservoir increases if you close the gate. When the rains come, the water gets stored in the dams. You save the water. So instead of allowing the waters to the river water or the rainwater to go waste, where it just falls directly into the sea, you create these dams and you save that water. So that when there's non-monsoon seasons, our cities get water. So every large city, every rural area, every farm field requires these reservoirs.
So you control it so it can be utilized whenever needed.
Correct. So whenever you need, you release the water from the dam and send it to cities. Large cities like Mumbai has water supply coming from hundreds of kilometers away, which are dams which were created hundreds of years ago.
Okay.
So that's what we do. We construct these, we do complete EPC. We do design, engineering, construction from foundation to finishing of a large dam, of a large barrage. Then the next phase is hydroelectric power. So this is irrigation and water supply. Then the hydropower, which is basically generation of water, generation of electricity through water. So we do complete EPC for hydroelectric power projects. In the hydroelectric power projects, we do 2 kinds. One is EPC for hydromechanical equipments, which is a highly niche and specialized area of EPC, where we do design, supply, manufacturing, supply, and installation of hydromechanical equipments. And then we also do complete EPC, so where we are responsible for the complete turnkey project. So from conceptualization of the project to commissioning of the project, everything, civil, hydromechanical, electromechanical, everything.
Are these tender-based?
Yes, they're all tender-based. We do works with the central government, state governments, corporations, central government corporations, and even state governments. We've practically done projects in every state in the country. Okay.
So this process, how it works is, if amount is allocated to the ministry, it gets discussed in the cabinet. Cabinet approves it. Then it's given to a government company like NTPC or NHPC. Then they float the tender, and then you bid.
Correct.
And if I'm not wrong, the lowest cost company gets the tender. Then there's a technical capability test, right? Correct. Can you explain the process?
So let me explain. So there are projects both by the central government and by the state governments. Now within the central government also there are several corporations which are owned partly by the central government and state governments, like NTPC, National Thermal Power Corporation, NHPC, National Hydropower Corporation, SJVNL, THDC, NIPCO. These are all central government owned corporations. Then there are certain state government owned corporations also, which is UJVNL. So all of these corporations, they are allotted projects or they sign MOUs with the states to build hydropower projects. Now India has a hydropower potential of 150,000 megawatts, of which today only 46,000 megawatts has been developed. So we have
in gigawatts, 150 gigawatts is the potential.
150 gigawatts
but we've
and
developed
only
46,
47, 48 gigawatts of the 150 gigawatts has been developed. So we have a huge potential. We are probably the second or the third largest hydropower potential country in the world.
Okay.
Second only to China and maybe Brazil. So we have a huge potential in our country. And hydropower is a clean source of energy. It's a green source of energy. It's renewable. So therefore, there's a lot of focus by the government of India to develop the hydropower potential in the country.
So coming back, sorry to interrupt. Once this is given to the NTPC and HPC, then they file a MOU, sign a MOU with the state government. After that, what happens?
So once the central government allots the projects, or even the NHPC or NTPC goes to the state, signs an MOU, then they prepare a DPR, detailed project report, or a feasibility report, pre-feasibility report or a feasibility report. Once that feasibility report is prepared, it is approved by their board. In most of these corporations, it is the board which takes the decision. And then, of course, they need central government clearances also. Once these clearances are obtained, then they float the tenders. Of course, one part of it is also in between, which is called CCA, which is Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. So that Cabinet Committee approves it, especially for the central government corporation. Once the CCA clearance is achieved, then they do financial closure. So part of the equity, most of these central government PSUs are self-funded. They don't require additional significant equity from the central government. So because they're all corporations, they are listed on the stock exchanges, they can raise their own funds. So only when it is a large project, when they require some equity support from the central government is when they approach the central government. So all of that, once it is done, they achieve financial closure, which is where they raise debt. Once that financial closure is achieved, then they invite tenders. The tenders are invited. If it's a large project, the tenders are invited in several packages. Civil being the largest, then electromechanical, which is consisting of turbines and generators, and the hydromechanical, which is where we come in. So for a large project, typically we will do hydromechanical equipments, which is ranging from anywhere between 5% to 10% of the total cost of the project. But for a smaller project, let's say a few hundred megawatts, let's say 200, 300, 400 megawatts, we do the entire EPC. We can do the entire EPC. So we do civil, hydromechanical, and even electromechanical.
So up to 5 gigawatts, you can do it completely in-house, meaning
up to 500 megawatts, not 5 gigawatts, up to 500 megawatts. Yeah.
So 0.5, sorry,
Correct.
0.5
Yeah.
Gigawatts.
Correct.
So at what point can't you do it?
So I'll tell you, this business is actually driven by tenders, as you rightly said. And tenders are always on pre-qualification basis. So the tenders are invited, you are judged on several parameters: technical qualification, financial qualification, and general parameters of qualification. And because these are very critical projects, therefore the entry barriers are very high. So for example, if I will be qualified to bid for a project of, let's say, 100 megawatt, only if I've done a similar project in the last 5 years or in the last 10 years. So the entry barriers are created by way of, because these are critical projects. One wrong project can lead to devastation in the entire area.
Then environmental concerns,
quality of work, timely completion of work. All those things are one project. You've seen a lot of news by the Prime Minister's office about the delay and the cost it is, it is costing the central government exchequer a huge amount of money because of all the delays in the infrastructure projects. So therefore the entry barriers are very high. The pre-qualifications are defined. Once you pre-qualify is when your price bids are opened. So it is all tender based. You have to be successful bidder, where we call L1, which is lowest bidder, in order to get the project.
And then it goes to technical cost as well, then technical capability.
So once the tenders are invited, the technical pre-qualification is done before your price bid is opened.
Got it.
So you have to be able to qualify to bid for that job.
Got it.
And once you qualify, you bid for that job. Once your bid is successfully opened and you are declared as L1, you get the letter of award or LOI. That's when you sign the agreement with the client and you start the work.
Got it. I want to ask you the timeline. Before that, you said you can execute up to 0.5 gigawatts, 500 megawatts. Now, what is the average size of a project that the government issues?
So let me explain to you. In terms of hydromechanical equipments, we qualify for as big a project as it can get. We can qualify for 1,000, 2,000 megawatts also. In hydropower, anything above 500 megawatts, 500 or above 500 megawatts is considered as mega hydropower project, mega project. Similar to what in a thermal power project would be above 1,000 megawatts. In hydropower, it's above 500 megawatts. So we qualify for the largest project in hydromechanical space. When it comes to doing complete EPC, which is including civil and hydromechanical, we would typically, we are currently doing a project which is 300 megawatts, where we are doing complete EPC.
Okay.
So that's how these. Then of course, you need to meet financial conditions. You need to meet net worth conditions, turnover conditions. Then banking limits. Banking limits is a very big factor. Then your bid capacity. If you've taken too many projects in your order book, then you will not be able to bid for a large project because you already have too much on your in your order book.
I wish something like that was there for real estate.
Yeah.
So what I understand, to conclude, 0.5 gigawatts, you can do it EPC from civil to all the way to
Correct.
entire
Yeah.
process. But if it's a mega project, then you are eligible for the equipment part of the entire project.
Correct.
Great.
Absolutely.
Now, your order book is 2,500 crore, if I'm not wrong, as of the latest quarter.
Outstanding order book.
Outstanding order book, that's right. And most of them, I'm just making a plate switch. Now it's Jal Jivan Mission. Okay.
Correct.
I want to go through the Jal Jivan Mission. I'll explain what it is and where are you adding value, because it involves a lot of civil work and pipe systems.
Correct.
And connecting the water source to even to the end, the rural household. So Jal Jivan Mission, from what I understand, it came up in 2017, right? And the incumbent government said that we will make sure functional household, functional access to water, potable water will be accessible to around 19.2 crore homes.
Correct.
And currently it would be around 14.5 crore homes. So around 75% they've achieved.
Correct.
Is there any addition to this?
So let me explain to you. I mean, I'm proud of our current government and the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, where the first thing that they provided was roads to every village, in order to improve village connectivity. Then they focused on providing electricity. So today you go to any remotest part of the country, there is an electric connection provided to every village, every household.
99% electrification
is done already, accomplished. Now the third biggest problem that our country faced was potable water. Now even today, most of our villages and most of the households in the villages don't have potable water. They are still traveling, the women of the house are still traveling kilometers every day, carrying pots on their head just to bring drinking water to their house. So this is an acute problem, and this causes problems, various multifold problems, diseases, not having potable water, starvation, all those things. It's a massive problem, and our Honorable Prime Minister really is treating it like a mission. That is why he created this into a form of a mission, which is called Jal Jivan Mission. So his aim is to bring water to every village household. And in that aim, it was, the schemes were always there, but there was no focus until this government came in. And the reason I say that is because the state governments were responsible for bringing drinking water to every household. But state government were lacking funds. Now the vision of our Prime Minister made it happen, because now today 50% of the contribution required to do this capital investment comes from the central government. So the moment state government realizes that they will get a 50% grant from the central government if they complete these projects, they get incentivized. So that is why you've seen a mission-like approach where all the projects are getting implemented. You're seeing water works happening on the ground. Now, the schemes are in various style and fashion, because, wherever you have ground water, what our scope entails is we are supposed to dig a borewell, bring out water, take it to an overhead tank, and then do water treatment also, create a pump house, and then take bulk water pipelines to villages, and from the bulk water pipelines, distribution pipelines to each and every household, up to the FHTC, which is what we call functional household tap connection. So every village household, we have to give a functional water tap connection, and none of this is charged to the household. We are not supposed to take even a single penny from them. We are not metering it also. Unfortunately, a lot of people think that, eventually we'll get metered, but there'll be no metering. This is just to provide them safe and drinking and potable water to their house, premises of their house. So millions and millions of households in India today don't have potable water, and this is what we are doing. We are doing thousands of lakhs of households in UP, thousands of households in Rajasthan, and there is enormous amount of work that is happening across the country like this.
UP, before this mission started, we were just having a look at the report. So if you go to the website, every month they release a report. So it was around 10 to 12%. We'll get the actual figure on while editing, but 10 to 12% was the disconnections in UP. Now it has come up to around 65-70% in UP.
Yeah.
States like Goa, Arunachal Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, they have 100% connections now. Maharashtra, where we are right now, the connection is around 80 to 82%, I suppose. Still, it's not 100%, despite being
correct,
such a great state and the highest energy consumer, highest GDP still. So, in this project, you said you have given really valuable information, because from the top, from the report, it's easy to read and it's easy to make assumptions. But you literally do the ground. You're on the ground doing the groundwork. So where are you adding value? Like, once they give you the contract, what can you break it into 3 or 4 or how many other areas, and tell me what value addition you're doing in each? First item. Second item, can you tell me the margins that you expect or are currently witnessing?
So what we do here is, as I explained to you, that we wherever there's groundwater available at a decent depth, we dig borewell, we create a permanent borewell, we pump water from that borewell into the pump house, where we create overhead tanks. You may have seen everywhere you go, you see overhead tanks. So we create overhead tank capacity. From that overhead tank, we take it to a clarifying process, where the water is made is cleaned and made into a potable drinking water quality. And from that, it is pumped to various households up to the tap connection. This is what we do in some projects. Some other projects, like in states in Rajasthan, where there's no groundwater available, or the groundwater is available at a very deep depth, there we bring it from the source, which may be a canal, or it may be a dam, or it may be we may have to create a reservoir also, where we build a large reservoir. And from there, we then pump the water through large diameter pipelines and then create overhead tanks. So entire scheme from source of water to the household is what we do. And this involves laying of pipelines, construction of overhead tanks, which could be ranging from 5,000 kiloliters to 50,000 kiloliters. That is the range, depending on depending on the population that you have to serve in that region, and up to the village pipeline and the tap connection. So entire work has to be done by us. And the beauty of the scheme is, which is what, again, I admire the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister. The beauty of the scheme is that they've also included 10 years of operation and maintenance as part of our responsibility.
Okay.
So can you imagine, earlier the works used to be done, and 1 year or 2 years down the line, the scheme would be dysfunctional for whatever reason. It may be wrong design, it may be wrong quality of work or anything. But now, as part of our own scope, we are also supposed to do operation and maintenance for 10 years. Yeah. And also, not only us, even the village panchayat is also involved in the process of operating and maintaining the facility. So imagine how beautifully the scheme has been, the Jal Jivan Mission has been designed, that there is accountability by the panchayat. The women of the village participate in the maintenance of the facility, in the operation of the facility once the facility is completed.
Okay. You said operation and maintenance, but to make sure it's a good thing, is this cost upfront? Like in the tender, is it part of the tender? Or is it something that's ongoing depending on how much maintenance you have to do?
No, it is part of the main scope of the work only.
Okay.
We get paid every year after the project is commissioned and the 12-month defect liability period is over. After that, every year we get paid by the government for operating and maintaining the facility for 10 years.
What if the cost of maintenance exceeds what the government had allowed?
No, we factor in. We factor in the operational cost, where the manpower is. So we are not responsible for electricity that is generated or provided by the government. We are only responsible for major maintenances, and for which also, in most cases, the item rates are defined. So anything that we execute, we are allowed to get paid for it. So therefore, it's not a loss for us. It still makes us decent margins. So not only when it comes to margins, again, it depends on state and competition, but we enjoy a decent margin of anywhere between 12 to 14% in Jal Jivan Mission projects,
There's
depending on the state.
current ongoing
Order
projects.
book. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your order book is in two areas, Rajasthan and UP, for the Jal Jivan Mission, right?
Correct.
And it's only 75% penetration. I mean, success is only 75% as of now. So they would be looking to increase to 100%. Initial target was by 2024, they reach 100%, but it's currently at 75%, which is very commendable. But at the same time, there would be a lot of opportunities for companies such as yourself. So are you currently bidding? Are you an L1 bidder? If you can share, I'm not sure if you.
So we are bidding for more and more projects. We were till a few years ago restricted by our bid capacity and restricted by the size of our company. Now we are proud and happy to say that we have achieved a significant growth in the last few years in terms of our revenue, and an increase in revenue also adds more bidding capacity. So we are currently aiming at having an order book of over 5,000 crores. Our current outstanding order book of about 2,500 crores will last us for another 1 to 2 years. And therefore we are targeting to add a significant order book going forward. This will not only be, so we currently are working in almost 10 states in the country. We have experience of working in every state in the country and abroad also. But we are going to continue to look for Jal Jivan Mission projects across the country. Our forte is in the existing states, of course, but there are states like Rajasthan, MP, Gujarat, a couple of other states which have not achieved even 40-50%. Rajasthan today stands at anywhere between 30 to 40% of coverage. MP is also lagging behind. UP may be at 70-80%, but there's still 10% gap there. So a lot of states have enormous potential for us to grow our Jal Jivan Mission order book. Then other than Jal Jivan Mission order book, we have hydropower. There's a lot of focus by the central government on hydropower development, having known the potential. Any country has to have a balanced energy, generation from fossil fuels and renewables. So the ideal generation, ideal breakup between the two should be 60-40, with 60% coming from fossil fuel and 40-50% coming from renewables. And India's lack of focus over the last 10 years on hydropower development or adding additional capacity in hydropower over the last 7-8 years has actually resulted in this becoming very skewed and unbalanced. So therefore now suddenly in the last maybe 1 or 2 years, the government of India's focus has increased on hydropower. That is one reason. The other reason is also the border area development. Now we are surrounded by our neighbors. Unfortunately, the infrastructure development hasn't happened in the border areas, which includes Jammu and Kashmir and Arunachal and Assam and all of these states. So the government has focused and has brought in focus and has realized that these infrastructural developments can happen only if we build infrastructure projects like roads, like electricity, like power projects, and our north and northeastern states have enormous potential when it comes to hydropower. So that is the approach that central government has taken.
Now you said the lack of attention that was given to hydropower. Okay, and currently I think 60% of the power installed capacity is coal, and 60% of the more than the 60% is of energy that we consume is from coal. And my question is, if government did not focus, we saw the data from Central Electricity Authority of India, and it mentioned that from 2017, the hydropower capacity, installed capacity was around 44 gigawatts, and currently in 2023, so a couple of months ago, it was around 46 gigawatts. So hardly any momentum when it comes to that, when you compare to solar or wind for that matter. So when this issuance of projects by the government was at enormously low levels, how did you, meaning I would go on to say, how did you survive? Because there's no issuance of projects. And do you expect this to continue? Or because if you expect this to continue, then you would go mostly into Jal Jivan missions. So what is your comment on that?
Very interesting observation by you. So what happened was that till about 15-20 years ago, we were only focused on hydromechanical equipment. And this is exactly the problem that I foresaw. I started foreseeing. And having realized that there's going to be drying up of new hydropower project announcements. The last such initiative I saw only during Atal Bihari Vajpayee's time, and that time he had a hydropower mission, which of course lacked attention over the last 7-8 years. So having realized that there is a lack of projects in hydropower, we diversified by taking up civil works also. From hydromechanical, from being pure play EPC hydromechanical contractor, we started doing complete EPC for irrigation projects, water supply projects, Jal Jivan Mission projects, smart city projects. We've done one of the smart cities in Ujjain.
Smart
in
city
MP.
meaning water connection to these
No,
cities? And
complete infrastructural works for smart cities.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do roads, boundary walls, utilities, electrification, water treatment plants, sewage treatment plant. So complete switchyard. So complete EPC contract for a smart city. Then the creation of dams, which are not related to hydropower. Construction of canals, irrigation projects, and also pump storage projects. Now there's a lot of focus on pump storage also.
So these are the areas you focused during this period because the number of orders were lacking.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Now, but then what do you see for the next 4 years? Like it can be your foresight or
the kind of potential that I'm seeing in all the verticals that we have qualifications in. As I told you, the 5 verticals: hydropower, irrigation, water storage, Jal Jivan Mission, and most importantly, river interlinking also. There's a lot of projects being announced by the central government where they know that some rivers have no water, they drought, and some rivers are overflowing and they have flooding. So they've realized that India, with so many rivers, such large river potential in India, they need to create these large mega projects for river interlinking and bring water from surplus to deficient areas, and the other way around when it is required. So for that they have created another vertical called river interlinking. Then there is pump storage. Now India has huge number of water reservoirs already created, where in pump storage basically you are pumping water from higher level reservoir to lower level, from lower level reservoir to higher level reservoir during off peak demand. And during peak demand, you're you're drawing the same water from higher level reservoir to lower level and generating power. So, you may have heard that we have power deficit during peak demand.
True.
That power deficit during peak demand can only be catered by hydropower or by pump storage projects, because solar doesn't provide you large scale projects. Wind doesn't provide you large scale capacity addition. The only two sources of energy will be, and hydropower and pump storage is quick switch off and switch on project. It's literally the shortest time that you require. In a thermal power project, you require a huge amount of time to get them up and running, and huge amount of time to get them to shut down also. So the peak demand can only be met in a country of our size like India by hydropower and pump storage projects.
But then you can, if you have solar and let's say wind also, which is not functional throughout the day. Let's solar, it's bright during the afternoon, it generates the highest power. Wind during night, wind speeds are high, so it generates the most power. But then this power can be stored in a battery energy storage system. We don't have the capacity right now, but we can do it. So is it right to say the pump storage systems and battery energy storage system, this is a connection between renewables and demand of power?
Absolutely. You nailed it by saying what you just said. The pump storage projects are being looked at from all angles. They are being looked at from renewable source of energy. They are being looked at meeting the peak demand, which is the peak deficit, peak power deficit demand, and meeting the battery storage also. You're literally, by creating two reservoirs, you're literally creating a battery.
True.
So imagine having 1,000 megawatt of battery storage, which otherwise in a lithium ion battery would cost you billions of dollars. Here you're creating the same capacity at much lesser cost, where the infrastructure is already available, the source of water is already available, one of the reservoirs is already available. So it's a much easier and cheaper source of battery storage.
And you don't have to rely on China.
Yes, for lithium.
And Coal India, I think, recently announced, you would be able to give more clarity on this, that they plan to invest, I think, $750 million or $1 billion up to in creating pump storage systems. The coal mines that are currently, there is no coal left, completely exhausted. They can use that because of the elevation, I think. they can use it for pump storage systems.
Correct.
So
This is also another, landmark decision that our Honorable Prime Minister has taken, where, redundant assets which are not being utilized and not being put to any use, like the mines which have been shut down by Coal India, putting those assets to use for generation of power, and that to a renewable source of power. So incredible scheme, and has potential to generate gigawatts level of power through utilization of these assets which are lying redundant.
Okay. Now, can you quickly go through the science behind this? Water at an elevated level is slowly forced downwards, and that turns the turbine. Okay, that generates electricity.
Correct.
During the peak demand hour, and during the off peak, let's say the power demand is very low. Like from, when is power demand very low? 1 a.m. to 4 a.m.
Correct.
So we have done the study, and I think
Correct.
6 to 7 p.m. is the highest
Correct.
peak demand.
Correct.
Lowest is 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. Highest is 6 to 7 p.m.
Correct.
So let's say between at the nights they would pump the water up.
Yeah.
Okay. Use electricity instead.
Correct.
You said it, pump the water.
Correct.
Is this right? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right about this. Okay. So during the off-peak demand hours, when the power is not going waste, they're not getting utilized, you will pump water from lower reservoir to the upper reservoir. So you'll pump the entire water, and you'll create a battery kind of a storage where there's water there. Now, the moment the peak demand hits, all you have to do is just open the valves and open the gates, which is what we also do. Open the gates, the water gushes because of the elevated elevation. The water gushes with a specific velocity and hits the turbine blades, and the turbine blades start generating electricity. Okay. So the moment you open the gates or the valves, you can start generating electricity. That's how quick it is. So you start doing this during peak demand, and you generate electricity, and you throw the electricity back into the transmission lines, and transport it wherever you want in the country.
Got it.
And India has apparently some 50,000 megawatts, 40 gigawatts of power generation capacity through pump storage also.
Okay.
Even if we keep constructing pump storage projects for the next 10-20 years also, we will still not be able to utilize the entire potential that our country offers.
How much is the potential? I think 150.
Right now, we have a capacity of about 5,000 megawatts, 5 gigawatts of pump storage projects. Maybe I think in the next 10 years, we will add another 10,000 megawatts. Okay. You may have read in the news everywhere there are MOUs being signed both by the government sector and the private sector also. Now, I've heard that Tata Power and Adani Power, they've signed MOUs with states to generate thousands of megawatts through pump storage projects. Okay. And for them, for a IPP, they're independent power producers. For an IPP, this is an incredible, product or incredible project, because they don't even need to sign PPAs, power purchase agreements for such projects. They can just use it as merchant power. So let's say during peak demand, they can put the power in the exchange and get maybe 6, 7, 8 rupees. So it serves them very well. The returns for IPPs will be phenomenal in pump storage projects.
You're saying these IPPs, I do not have exact clarity in this area, but IPPs, they need not sign like 25-year power purchase agreement. They can sell it in the open market during peak hours and
absolutely
whatever the rate.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So imagine their current generation is locked with a PPA on certain tariff. This can be the icing on the cake for them.
Absolutely. And you said 4,000 megawatts. 4 gigawatts is our current capacity when it comes to pump storage systems. I read in China it is around 36 gigawatts, and US and Japan individually like this 22, 23 gigawatts each. So there's a huge area for growth here. And plus, if you take completely switching the topic, but Ola or Exide or Amaraja batteries, they are committing, let's say we'll do 5 gigawatts, 7 gigawatts kind of a lithium ion manufacturing unit. Because if you see, no one does lithium ion in the country right now. It is all assembling, getting from China and assembling and saying battery pack. But even the capacity these people are coming up with, it would be starting in 2027, the entire unit. So we do not have lithium capacity.
Correct.
So our shortcut method, the most efficient method, is what you said, pump storage
Absolutely.
systems.
And here we are not dependent on China or any foreign source of raw material. So this is an incredible scheme by the central government, according to me.
So this growth, currently yours is 2,500 crore order book. I want to point out that in March 2022, you had around 3,500 crore order book, if I'm not wrong. So your execution has been faster than your order book growth. I want to ask you the reason behind it. Secondly, how do you see the future? If you're saying 2,500, we're going to go to 5,000 crore order book. Like, where do you see growth coming from?
So I'm very, very bullish and very happy with whatever is happening in our country. For the simple reason that we are seeing an enormous exponential growth in every aspect of whatever we are doing. You talk about hydropower potential, the focus by the central government, pump storage projects, as we already spoke, river interlinking, Jal Jivan Mission, dams and reservoirs. Now every city is growing. We see the population of the city growing. We see the water crisis that our country is facing right now. Large cities are facing water crisis. So what the government is doing is planning the water requirement for another 10, 15, 20 years. 20 years ahead, what will be the water requirement for Mumbai city, Delhi city, or all the large cities in the country. So to create a water reservoir, water source for supplying water to all of these cities is very, very essential today. So there's enormous scope in all the 5 areas that we are working on.
Okay.
Then the next thing is water treatment plants, sewage treatment plants. Now every urban city, every mid-sized city requires to treat their water, the waste, and utilize that maybe for reusing the water, being sustainable, etc. So we are right now doing a 220 MLD water treatment plant in city of Mumbai. We have a minority stake there.
MLD means million liters per day.
Million liters per day.
Okay.
Yeah. This is part of BMC project where we have a minority stake.
Bombay Municipal Corporation.
Bombay Municipal Corporation, yeah. Once that project is commissioned, which is expected to take place in the next 3 years, we will have built qualifications of our own to bid for such projects also, which is why I'm not talking it as a 6th vertical. Right now, I'm only focused on, there's enormous business opportunity even in the 5 verticals that we are present in. That will be the 6th, and the urban infrastructure is what I call it. The water treatment plants, sewage treatment plants is going to be the 6th and the 7th vertical for us.
Great.
But for now, we'll be focused on, so see, today, till a few years ago, we were in a situation where we were bidding for every project that comes our way. Today, we are in a position where there's so much opportunity that we have to cherry pick which states we want to work in and which projects we want to get in. The idea is to have bid for projects with a focus on the bottom line, not to have a focus on the top line.
So you have that minimum criteria internally for that margin, a bit the margin.
Yes.
How much is that?
We want to make sure that our bottom line is our order book is bottom line focused.
Got it.
Averaging, and all of our order book is double-digit margin order book, and we don't want to dilute that for sure. So the idea will not be to create a 10,000, 20,000 crore order book with a single-digit margin. The idea would be to have 5,000 to 10,000 crore order book over the next couple of years, and still be focused on bottom line.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you said geography inclinations also there along with margins. My question is, you have a project in Africa as well. So why would you be focused on, that I want this specific geography with this specific geography in India? Like Rwanda, that you have a 6 crore project. Okay. And I think you have done one in Ghana as well previously. So if you are used to operating in a let's say, environment that you're not used to, then why would you have issues in operating in
So
other
I'll tell
regions?
you, we have worked in the remotest parts of the country,
Okay.
where we have worked in the border areas. We worked in in Nepal, in Bhutan, in Vietnam. So we have had experience of executing projects overseas as well. Africa is offers enormous potential in the field of business that we are in. So therefore, to leave it out of our site is not the right strategy. Number one. Number two, it offers decent margins. It offers double-digit margins. Number three, the government of
margins
India.
are greater than Indian?
Margins are slightly greater than India. especially when you're working in Africa and countries like that. So, and the third and most important part is that Government of India gives line of credits to all of to some 60 or 70 nations around the world, and the conditions which are part of that line of credit, which are kind of grants, long-term funding grants that Government of India gives to these countries, is that the work has to be executed by an Indian company, or at least majority of the work has to be executed by the Indian company. So we were beneficiaries of that, and that's how we ended up getting our first project almost about 15 years ago in a small project, $4-5 million project in Ramdas. That gave us a great experience and gave us good margins and good experience of working in a foreign country, especially in the African continent. That led us to us getting the second project, which was almost $20 million project. Then it led us to getting a third project, which is in Ghana, which is another $20-25 million project. The Ghana project was a World Bank funded project. So our focus with the African foray is only to work in projects where there's Government of India line of credit, so the funding is secured, and or work for multilateral funded projects.
So the World Bank project that
World
you mentioned,
Bank,
Ghana,
yes.
that had Indian involvement as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, World Bank, it was funded by World Bank,
Okay.
but it was a global tender.
Got
and
it.
we were successful. Fortunately, we were successful.
Okay. So,
So
on a
that's how
global
we got there.
scale, basically my point of taking from what you just said is that on a global scale, you actually won the project.
Yes.
Compared to
Yes.
your competitors would have been Chinese companies,
Yes.
many other
Yes, absolutely.
regions. Okay. Wow. Okay. Do you face any difficulties? Because in Africa, there's a lot of political instability. And when we look at infra companies, we make sure when we're investing at least that no project is stuck, because we've seen many infra companies. Now there is survivorship bias that infra does well, but that's actually not the truth as a whole, because there's survivorship bias. You only see the companies that have not gone bankrupt that are growing, like such as yourself. But then there are companies that have one project is gone, maybe a BOT project or a HAM project, and they are nowhere to be seen. So we make sure. So in Africa, do you think that possibility of a project getting stuck is there?
You're absolutely right. Africa is a different animal altogether. Now, you have to have your foot in the door with a small project, small ticket size, because Africa, because of political instability, because of various reasons, local culture, local know-how and experience of having worked in those countries, unless you have a small foot in the door, don't just enter Africa blindfoldedly into any country without having a prior experience. So having a prior local experience is extremely important. You may assess a double-digit margin in any project and realize that once you've entered into that project, that may actually be disastrous for you, as you rightly said. So a small step approach is better for Africa, or for that matter, any new country that you enter into. So just get your foot in the door, experience that country, have a knowledge of that country, and then go full throttle on getting more larger order. And
Absolutely, because it's not just your company. There are other companies that are into different, maybe concrete sleepers, or railways, or even
a lot of companies have lost a lot of money. Punj Lloyd being one of them. We've all heard of that. So there are a lot of horror stories also of companies which have ventured abroad and taken large-scale projects and have been disastrous.
No, these days we're seeing a lot of companies in India, in small and mid-cap companies, let's say in terms of market capitalization, forming joint ventures with African companies and the government, and then bidding for 20% margin projects, 18% margin projects, when the Indian margin is around 12%, 13%. So you're right. It's not, you can't see only the green signs and the good things. You need to see the negative aspects.
It has to be a very, very cautious approach. We've also had challenges in our projects during execution. But because, I've always learned from my grandfather that you have to have your feet and ears and eyes on the ground. I used to make sure that I visit, when we were having challenges in those projects, I used to make sure that I visit not once, but twice, thrice to those projects in Africa. And, fortunately, God's been kind, we came out successfully after earning margins also. From disaster management to successfully executing and completing those projects and coming out with a profit from those
and
projects.
Interestingly, it's not just infra companies. We had invested in a Coimbatore-based textiles company. It's a large company now. and they had a facility in Ghana, if I'm not wrong, to manufacture garments. And once the political instability kicked in, I'm not sure if it's Ghana. I need to cross-check my facts, but when the political instability came in, the factory was shut down, and the machinery, everything. I think 12 months, 15 months later, they moved it back to India. So it's not just Africa is a growth area for sure, but then again, a lot of risks is there with growth.
Absolutely.
And so from 5,000, you said 10,000 crore order book you would be aiming.
Yeah, the potential is enormous, and there is no doubt that if we continue to grow the way we are growing right now, organically and with profitable double-digit bottom line focused order book, it won't be far-fetched for me to say that 5 years down the line, maybe over the next few years, we may have a sizable order book.
Okay. You said EPC. Can you, and EPC we think compared to the BOT, build, operate, transfer, or the HAM, hybrid annuity model projects, it's the most safest for the company and the investors. Correct me if I'm wrong, first. Secondly, can you tell us how is the payment scheme or payment timeline from the government agencies?
See, people who are doing BOT or HAM projects have to have a very, very strong balance sheet. And only then you can venture into BOT or HAM projects. It's a different animal altogether. We also ventured into a BOT project. Unfortunately, India policy being driven by government, there's a bit of an unpredictability. On that. So, similar thing happened with us where we had completed the BOT road project and the government came out with a notification saying that the tolling of private vehicles will be stopped.
Is this a Rajasthan project in 2018? They must have released
So, I would say, having all had that experience in the past, we will not venture into BOT projects. We will focus on our core strength, which is EPC and profitable EPC projects. You don't require capital. We are debt free. Why would we want to take the stress of taking debt by getting into BOT or HAM projects?
True.
So ideally, we would not like to venture into BOT or HAM projects.
Then EPC, how is the payment schedule like?
EPC is simple. Once you get a project, you get 5 to 10% advance from the client.
Before, let's say, even if you're doing conceptualization that you earlier said, even before.
So the moment you become L1, which is the successful bidder, the moment you become a successful bidder, you are given a letter of award. You sign an agreement with the client. The moment you sign an agreement, you give bank guarantees, performance bank guarantees, advance bank guarantees. If there's advance, then you get 5% or 10% advance from the client. You use that advance to do mobilization at the site. You bring in all the plant and machinery equipment to the site. You mobilize the site. You start billing. And with every month, you have billing. So your cash flow cycle is quite positive. Almost during the entire. So typically, we have a 4-year duration of the contract, anywhere ranging between 3 to 4 years or 3 to 5 years duration of the contract. And I would say maybe barring a couple of months in between, or maybe cumulatively out of 60 months, maybe 12 to 14 months is where you have negative cash flow. Otherwise, by and large, if the project is already funded, you will never have negative cash flows.
Okay, let's say a government gives you a 100 crore project. Before starting, you take a 10%, so 10 crores has come. Now, how would the payment structure be for the next 4 years? So
that 10 crores I will invest in mobilization for the project or buying raw materials for the project.
Okay.
Once I start billing, then every month I will do some progress in that project. I get 60, 65, 70% payment, mostly 70, 75% payment. Then once I supply the equipment, I get another 10% payment. Then once I install and commission the equipment, I get 90% payment or 95% payment.
Okay.
The remaining, the last 5% or 10% is given to me once I once I complete the entire project.
Okay.
And normally I get that also back by giving a defect liability bank guarantee or a performance bank guarantee.
Okay.
So the last 5% or 10% retention amount is usually released by them by giving a bank guarantee.
Okay.
So we are quite well funded when it comes to EPC contracts.
No, infra companies these days prefer EPC over any other model. Now I want to come back to dams. Look, how do you firstly I want to ask you, what are the raw material that is required for a barrage or a dam? Firstly, and secondly, during this, whatever the raw materials may be, during 2023 when the commodity cycle really kicked in, upswing, you saw your margins come from, I think, 23% to 5%. And so your impact because of commodity prices has a huge impact on your P&L. So what are your raw materials? What is the impact exactly?
So typically for our hydromechanical contracts, the raw material is steel. And for our EPC contracts, the raw materials are, cement and all civil raw materials. Most of our contracts, we have price variations already built in the contracts.
Okay.
I would say most of our contracts have price variations. So wherever there are price variations, we get decently compensated for any price increase in cost of raw material. Only in case of exceptional price rise, like what happened during the Ukraine war, is when you get into this kind of a loss. But otherwise, by and large, the price variation takes care of almost 90-95% of the increase in raw material prices.
Okay.
So the raw material, the way the price variation works is the base date of the indices of the raw material prices, which is basically including material, labor, and fuel, is fixed on the 30 days before the date of submission of the bid. So let's say if today I'm submitting a 500 crore bid, today's price indices will be kept as a benchmark.
Correct.
And any price increase in the indices will be compensated by the client on a quarterly basis or on a monthly basis. So I get well compensated for price variation. Only under exceptional circumstances is when we have to face such a challenge.
Okay. And when you're constructing these dams, again, two areas to this question. Firstly, does this equipment and the construction, like the equipment that's used, is it done on site, or do you have a factory in Rajasthan, Kota? Is it manufactured there?
So for hydromechanical equipment, it's a mix and match.
Okay.
Depending on the location of the site. Some sites which are in in clear distance from our facility in Kota, we do 100% of the works at our facility in Kota and we transport it.
Okay.
But there are some remote sites, let's say for example in Jammu and Kashmir and Arunachal Pradesh, in really remote areas where there are challenges, logistic challenges also of tunnels, the size of the bridges, etc. We do a site survey before bidding for a project. So there, we do a mix and match. Maybe 30-40%, 50% will come from our plant in Kota, and the rest of 50% will be manufactured at the site. So we create a small site workshop also. Then this is how we mix and match. Then there are penstock pipes also, which are large, high pressure, large diameter steel pipes, special steels made out of special steel, which is used for transportation of water from the dam to the powerhouse. So those are called penstock pipes. Penstock.
Okay.
Which are basically high pressure, high tensile steel pipes. So those are, because they are large diameter, they are manufactured at the site. And they're voluminous, so therefore transportation cost is very high. So for that also we create a site workshop and manufacture it at the site.
These dams, when you establish it, when you develop it, it's mainly where there are currents are high, right, and the river is flowing. So how do you construct amidst this? Like what obstruction do you put? How does it work?
Typically for a barrage, if the river width is very wide, then we divert during lean. Now, most of the work happens during lean season only, where the river is not having heavy water flow. So we divert part of the water. So let's say if this is the width of the river, and this is lean season. So we work for about 9 months in a year. We create a diversion dam. So we divert the river water and isolate this section of the river, and we work in this section of the river first.
Okay.
Once we complete this section of the river, then we divert the water from this section of the river back to this, and we work in this section of the river. So again, depending on the width of the river, sometimes we do parallel work in both these sections and leave out this section so that the water flows from here. And during monsoon, of course, the water flows through the entire width of the river. Then once the monsoon goes down, then we again construct those diversion dams or diversion dikes, as we call it, and divert the water.
Okay.
This is in a barrage. In a hydropower project, it works differently. In a hydropower project also, we have to create diversion tunnels where the river water itself is diverted through a tunnel inside the mountain and that section of the dam is kept dry so that we can construct the dam and the water gets diverted from the diversion tunnel. which is another tunnel which is dug inside the mountain before
You're
the
basically making another river then.
Yes.
I mean,
So you're diverting the river basically for that temporary period
So
till the
but
construction of this dam happens.
it takes you around 3 years to
4 to 5 years.
4 to 5 years.
Yeah, because these are all large size projects. It takes a while, which is why you see hydropower projects can take anywhere between 5 to 10 years duration to complete.
What is the average width of a river that you construct on?
Oh, that's ranging. That could be, from
Largest
very small
that
to
you have
largest.
done? What is the largest that you have
The largest project that we have, I would not call it river. I would say the capacity of the project. The smallest project that we've done is 5 megawatts. To the largest project that we've done is 800 megawatts.
Wow, okay.
So we've done really big projects also.
Okay.
In terms of river, we are currently constructing one of the largest barrages in the country, which is almost 6.5 kilometer long across the river. The entire width of the river is where we are constructing a barrage.
Okay.
From one end to the other end is almost more than 6 kilometers.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Awesome. What is the name of this project, if I may ask?
This is Isarda Dam
Where is it?
in Rajasthan.
Rajasthan.
About 2 hours drive from Jaipur.
Okay. Great. I think we can. It has been a great interaction. Lastly, I want to ask you, you're third generation into the business. So, what has been the learnings from your previous generations that you're bringing, and what is it something new that you're bringing to? And I also want to connect. Previously, you were into hotels, cinemas, packaging business. Now you have waived off the non-core and you're laser focused on hydro, EPC, Jal Jivan, exit pump storage, the 5 verticals plus 2 that you mentioned. So how has been the journey? What has been the learnings and your focus changing?
So part of it is also an answer to the question that you asked me earlier, that what was I doing during when there was a dry out of the hydropower projects. So the company generated a lot of cash because of being in a monopolistic business, and those cash that results in surpluses that we had generated over the last 30-40 years were not being utilized in our core EPC business, and therefore we ended up doing opportunistic investments into land banks across the country. 5-6 land banks that we had, Hyderabad, Kota, Jaipur, Delhi, a couple of other places. So that land bank required monetization, and therefore we started building the projects. So Hyderabad we divested, we did a joint development agreement with Mahindra Life Spaces. Then Jaipur we built it on our own. The project is completed. We've received the occupational certificate also. We've received the OC.
Okay.
Project is already completed. Now we have to monetize by selling the entire inventory that we have. Similar thing is there in Kota also. So all of these are opportunistic investments which we were doing when we had money and our core business was not having enough potential to focus and grow on.
Just to slightly summarize, during this dry season from 2017 to 2023, the excess cash flow that you were generating went on to building this land bank, and mainly in Rajasthan, where you have 2 projects, residential projects. But that's not your focus, right?
That's not our focus. Okay. Yeah, that's not our core business. Having realized that there is enormous opportunity in our core business, which is related to water EPC, we have been divesting, we have been selling all of the other businesses and all of the other land bank, and having laser focus on our EPC business.
Okay.
So that's been, and then of course my learnings have been that you have to be bottom line focused, especially when you're working with government in India. Having focus on your core business, being connected to the projects, being connected to the ground is very important. Execution is extremely important today. Time has come that India is not a laggard when it comes to execution of the projects.
Very true.
We are now very focused on implementation, timely implementation, and that requires the management also to become very agile in decision making, become connected to every project, and ensure timely completion. So gone are the days where you could just sit back and wait for the project to get completed over 5-10 years. Government focus is changing completely, and so do we. We have to change as well. and we have changed. And fortunately, we've been our strongest strength that we say is management skill. You know, and that's what you require for being successful in EPC business.
No, basically what you're trying to say is the slower you act, the faster you die. So you have to be, the execution has to be on point.
Correct.
And this land bank that you mentioned, Rajasthan, that's to develop. Then what about the area in Bandra?
We have a 26,000 square meter land parcel in Bandra at a very prime location in Bandra. It's a sea facing prime property. This project we took from in a bidding from Government of Maharashtra 10 years ago, and then we subsequently signed a joint development agreement with with the DB Realty.
Okay.
We are seeing some light of the day in that project now, because the DB Realty has now started constructing rehab tenements, has now started temporary transit camps for rehabilitation. It's a slum rehabilitation project. So in order to cut things short, for Om Infra, we have a stake of 17.5% in that project, which will eventually bring us more than 250,000 square feet of sellable residential or commercial space.
What would be the value?
So the realization could be anywhere ranging from anywhere between few hundred crores to 700-800 crores, 600-700 crores.
Okay.
The reason why it's not possible to put a specific number to this project right now is because we don't have clear approved plans in our hands, and that we don't want to comment on right now, because unless the rehabilitation portion is completed, which is slum is rehabilitated, we won't know what is the clear sellable FSI we will get. Number one. Number two,
FSI
we
full
may floor space index.
Okay,
so basically sellable area, what we'll get in that land parcel. And number two, we may not even actually wait out till the completion of the project for realization of proceeds from that project, because we may, once the slum is cleared, then we may actually even sell the complete project or do joint development, with a real estate developer and get some monetization done quickly.
Because it's not your core.
Because that's not our core. So our focus is to divest and exit as early as possible. But that divestment or exit can only happen once the land is clear of all encroachments. Right now, it's a slum rehabilitation plot.
Okay.
So that's why it's not possible to put a specific number in terms of, but whatever it will come, it'll be a bumper, probably a huge portion of even the current market cap.
Wow.
That's how big bonus it'll be.
So just like on the governance side, there is nothing that promoter will sell to the company or anything of that sort, right? Like a land that promoter owns, which can be sold to the company. There's nothing in that company.
No, there's nothing like that.
Okay, and this area that you said, the Bandra land, it's in the company's name, not
it's
the
in it's in an SPV where we have 17.5% stake.
Oh, got it. But it's with the company.
Yeah.
Meaning 17.5 is with the company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so I looked at your equity. There's no dilution that has happened. Debt is very lean. 21 crore is your long-term debt. Do you have any constraints when it comes to working capital? Do you plan to raise debt or equity in the future?
We don't plan to raise debt. We don't plan to raise equity also as of now. We are self-funded when it comes to EPC contracts. The only thing we are looking for is tying up of non-fund based limits, because we require that to grow our EPC order book. Because for all our EPC projects, we require performance bank guarantees, advanced bank guarantees. So bank guarantee is actually our raw material. So we are focused on getting that from the banks.
Okay. What does it take to get the bank guarantees?
Our net worth, the sanctions from the bank, our rating has to improve. So the moment we've already received a notch upgrade in our rating, we are expecting to receive a couple of more upgrades in our rating. The moment that happens, the banks will be lining up with us.
How much is the cost of interest rate that you would have to pay if you would issue, let's say, 100 crores?
9.5, 10%. But that's not applicable on bank guarantees, because bank guarantees, they charge us a fee for providing us bank guarantee.
Okay.
So let's say if I have to take an advance from government, I have to give them a bank guarantee, which is basically a piece of paper which the bank signs on, saying that if my company ever default, the bank will be responsible for making that payment. So for a bank, it is a liability, but it is not truly a liability, because if as long as my company is healthy and it's making profits, it's not truly a liability. They will never have to pay that money. But for giving that document of bank guarantee, the bank charges me a fee, which is ranging from anywhere between 1.5% to 2.5%.
Oh, got it. So based on your balance sheet strength, your capabilities, bank will give you the bank guarantee
Limits.
because bank is taking the risk, and
Correct.
the bank guarantee will be submitted to the project, whoever is giving you the project.
Correct.
And the more strengthened bank guarantees that you have,
Correct.
and at the lower the fees, the more receptive they would be to give you the orders.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
to get this starting net worth and balance sheet strength higher, you're not going to issue debt or issue equity, right?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't need that.
Okay, got it. I think so. I think I've asked. We've had a good conversation, and it was very informative. And the process, look, it's in online also. It's not easy to get this kind of information, and our agenda is to get this directly from the promoters, so that you have said something. You are into hydroelectric power. Someone from the road infra will say similar concept. So, and it gives the consumer or the investor knowledge about each sector, in-depth payment schedules, etc., etc. Government's vision,
Correct.
Jal Jivan Mission that you've discussed very extensively. So thank you so much for your time, for
Thank
the
you.
energy, and thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. It's been a good interaction.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks.
Pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
All right.